Hello, hi, how's it been? I hope all of you had a much better time in 2024 than I did, because let us just say that was not my ideal year. So what was going on? Well, I've spoken about this topic before, but some time back I had a bit of a burnout experience with art. And by a bit of a burnout experience, I mean it felt like everything was going fine. I was chugging along, drawing as much as possible, and out of nowhere, I got hit with the burnout beam. The whole experience felt like I'd fallen into a big hole, cartoon character style. So I was at the bottom of a hole, metaphorically speaking, of course, and I was having the worst time of it. And in a twist of fate rarely seen, I made the correct decision and took a little break. And when I started feeling a little less, like my bones had been ground to dust by an impossible weight, I started slowly climbing my way out of there, which mostly included doing a lot less art and using that time I wasn't drawing to do some other fun things, like going outside, or learning to play the guitar, or getting back to writing fiction by participating in NaNoWriMo. Normal, not at all stressful things. But it worked. I was actually having a pretty good time, drawing only about 30 minutes a day, and right as I had finally made it out of my metaphorical hole, metaphorical sunlight on my face, I took a step forward and promptly fell into another, albeit slightly smaller, hole. And by which I mean I got overly ambitious, planned a massive creative project that I got maybe 5% into and then gave up on because it was just way too much, way too quickly. I did not think that through properly. And sitting at the bottom of that second hole made me stop for a second, or maybe even 2 seconds, and really, really introspect about what I was doing. The thing is, I was very aware that there was something wrong with the way I was approaching art and making things, and I knew that. And I even started on a bit of an autopsy of what had gone wrong, but I also just kind of half assed that and just kept doing the same things I had before my first breakout. So I was behaving like some sort of fool, which sounds deeply embarrassing when I have to articulate it in real words, but that is what happened. So, yeah, as we all know, you first gotta admit to yourself what you've been doing wrong in order to fix it, or to change, or whatever, become a better person. Something like that. So, now that I know what went wrong the first time, I'm gonna try and give it a second go, hopefully, not making the exact same mistake again. So, yeah, let's try and climb our way out of this metaphorical hole together. So, what's the plan? My problem is basically still somewhat the same as it was over 2 years ago. I am not having the greatest time making art. The process of making it is actually kind of okay. The real problem starts when I look at a collection of my work from like the last year or even the last few years. I feel kind of bad about it. I look at a lot of it and I think that's not really what I want. That's not good, not good enough. I hate this. And, that's not a great feeling to have. And that's not a great way to feel about things you put a lot of effort and time into. And since I would very much prefer not to feel like this about my own work, I'm going to try and get a fresh start and make some changes. First step is going to do some archaeology in my own archives, and in fact, I am already in the process of doing it. I'm really taking my time this time around, and well, it's a lot, which shouldn't be surprising because it's 15 plus years of art, including but not exclusive to over 50 sketchbooks. So you can only imagine why I'll be very busy on this task for quite a bit. The reason why I'm doing it in so much detail is that I really want to get a feeling for what got me into drawing in the first place. And I want to see if those motivations remain the same or if they've changed quite a bit since I was 12 years old. And B, I also want to find the little gems and glimpses of what I really enjoy creating and what I want to lean into more in the future. I want to see like all the little moments where I can spot a little prototype of the kind of art I want to be making going forward in the art I have already done. So yeah, as part of that look into my archives, I also want to take a more in-depth look at the last big project I actually finished, which was the 360 project. I talked about it on here before, but in short, it was basically a daily drawing challenge that lasted about a year where I would draw something for up to 30 minutes a day, or at least I would try to do that every day. I'm not going to go into detail here, but I had a great time with it, and I really want to see what I can learn from the whole thing. And while I'm combing through my archives, I also want to take some time to analyze my own inspirations for a bit. Going to be collecting a lot of art, ideally from a wide range of styles, mediums, and subjects that really speaks to me and that I would like to emulate in some way or another, or that just really, inspires me. I think that's going to be really helpful when I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go into, in the future, and also gives me a starting point on where I want to, explore and try new things. And after that, or more likely concurrent with those things, I'm also gonna go and make some art. Yay! Now, despite calling this series a fresh start, I will in fact be working on some old projects, at least at the beginning. These projects were either planned or already started somewhere in the last few years, and for one reason or another, I really want to see them through to completion. The first one of them is a sketchbook. I bought it a while back, probably in like 2022, 2023, in order to practice drawing with a brush and ink. I got one page into it and then promptly forgot about it, which is a shame because that's actually something I know I'm going to have a blast with because I've done this exact kind of art in my other sketchbooks. So it's like, a little treat to myself to get me back into the habit of drawing and just have a lot of fun with it. After that, I have hilariously another project including ink. I don't usually do that much with ink. I'm a watercolor guy for the most part, but I had the idea for a project with a limited number of colored inks quite a while back, probably during some Inktober, and I got really invested in that idea. And unlike the sketchbook, this one got quite a ways off the ground before I abandoned it again. I bought the inks for it a while back, and indeed I already did a bit of color testing and I did thumbnailing. The only thing still missing is actually making the illustrations I plan to make. While coming up with the whole thing, I plan to be as self-indulgent as possible, which might be a huge part of the reason why the whole concept still appeals to me even more than a year later, and after a whole creative crisis in that year, I also just feel a little bad, quite frankly, for already buying all the necessary supplies and not really using them so far. Shame on me for real. And finally, the last little project, my own little white whale. The third project I want to get out of the way before I can really focus on the future is a short comic. This little bitch has been haunting me for years by now. I originally came up with a concept in 2017. 2017! Now, since then, it has changed a lot, and honestly, for the majority of time between then and now, it's only set on the back burner, and I didn't really get around to proper writing and thumbnailing the pages out until 2023. So, it's not quite as bad as it looks, but, still. And it's not just that I just want to get this out of my system, but also that I really ought to do it to see if I enjoy working on comics at all. Like many weeb, I've always loved comics and manga, and they're one of the things that originally got me into drawing characters and all that. And, there's a lot of projects and ideas I've had over the years that I would love to turn into a comic. I absolutely love the idea of creating real proper comics and maybe even print them one day, but so far I haven't really tried making anything more elaborate than quick silly meme comics, so at this point I don't even know if I would enjoy that process. And without knowing that, I can't know if I'm wasting my time planning a bunch of comic projects that, will never get made, because what if I actually hate making comics? So yeah, that's why this little guy needs to get done, and the sooner the better. I call it a short comic because in the grand scheme of things, it is short, but I would also like to mention that it is about 60 full pages, so that's still quite a bit of work waiting for me there. But yeah, these three things are the first I'll be working on in 2025, and after that, I'm not really sure yet. I have a lot of ideas, as always. I love making plans, but following through, well, we shall see. I'm also going to be reasonable and put off making any more concrete plans until I'm a good way through my big art review thing and have looked through my inspirations. It wouldn't really be smart to plan and promise things I might never do because I'll realize halfway through that actually I don't want to do this. This sucks. So yeah, lots of plans for the future. Let's hope I'm better at following through on these than I was last time. Eventually, I've got to manage something, right? Right? Anyway, I have been going on for longer than I originally planned already. I hope you've had a good time and I will see you around. Until next time, have a good day.